brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware the power of December. Greetings fanboys and fangirls, I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster. Growing up, my absolute favorite comic book was Justice League of America, and my favorite member of the league was Green Lantern. Hal Jordan was the rascal of the group, the Han Solo. Brash, crass, impulsive, but fearless. And yes, I was still a fan when he went evil. In fact, I always found the Parallax storyline to be a fascinating cautionary tale on how even the great can be corrupted. And I felt that using one of their flagship characters to tell said story was a really bold move on DC's behalf. Whether or not Hal actually redeemed himself at the end is debatable. Point is, he tried, and that's all that mattered. It was an imperfect end to an imperfect character, and personally, I always felt the character should have been left alone after Final Night. But that's just my opinion. In spite of my love for GL, in 1996 when Superman the Animated Series was about to premiere, my cousin and I started to speculate about what would be DC's next animated show, as we innocently assumed that they would do a solo show of each of the main DC characters before they would even think about doing a Justice League show. Interestingly enough, I was pulling for Wonder Woman. She's one of the big three. They had already done a Batman and a Superman show, so I naturally assumed that that would be the natural progression of things. It was my cousin who was actually pulling for Green Lantern, as he felt that GL's space setting gave way for a larger variety of stories. Well, we were both wrong. DC Animated's next show was Batman Beyond, and we would have to wait almost 2 decades to see a Green Lantern show, and quite frankly, it was worth the wait. Now, before I get ahead of myself, for the benefit of those of you who should be returning your geek cards, the secret origins of Green Lantern. Long ago, the Guardians of the Universe devised a way to police all galaxies. They harnessed the power of will and created the most powerful weapon in the universe, the Emerald Battery, which would create rings that were extensions of its power. And each ring was bestowed upon one worthy candidate from every space sector, with the charge to safeguard their sector with a power that is only limited by their will and imagination. And thus, the Corps was born. And then came the day when their greatest warrior, Abin Sur, fell in battle. But when one Corps member dies, another takes his place. So his ring scoured a lowly planet called Earth and chose its worthiest candidate, Hal Jordan, a man without fear, a man we would come to know as Green Lantern. Now, before I jump into this review, DC Animated did release 2 great straight-to-DVD features before this show premiered, and while I do plan to review the rest of the DC Animated movies later this month, since this is a GL video, I'm gonna go ahead and go over them briefly. Keep in mind, these films are each just over an hour long, so if I talk about them too much, I would be giving too much away. So let's start with the first one released. Green Lantern First Flight. This is one animated movie that doesn't fuck around. They hit the ground running straight away, as they go ahead and show you Green Lantern's origin in the first 5 minutes, and how his powers work. Basically, the emerald light emitted from his ring can be shaped into any construct that Hal can think of. It grants him flight, a personal oxygen field, translation matrix so he can talk to aliens, universal database, and provides him with a sleek uniform. As far as limitations go, the ring holds a 24-hour charge. If it runs out of power, it must be recharged using a miniature battery each Green Lantern gets with his ring. In the comics, the rings can't affect items that are yellow, but this seems to be a fact that is glazed over in all the modern cartoons. After the origin is quickly established, the movie immediately moves to outer space, where, as everyone who has ever talked about this movie loves to point out, the film becomes Training Day in space. As Hal's first partner in the Corps, Sinestro is corrupt, shady, and has his own very narrow and strict point of view of how the universe should be protected. Hal is portrayed by Christopher Meloni, who does an awesome job as the devil-may-care Jordan.
Each lantern is responsible for patrolling one of 3,600 sectors of the universe. But...
Sort of like one cop per precinct.
Yes, I suppose.
My uncle was a cop.
Yes, fine, but...
30 years on the Coast City Police Force. Used to let me turn on the siren. Nice guy.
And yes, Chris did go on to play Colonel Hardy in The Man of Steel. But the real standout performance is Victor Garber as Sinestro. He moves from being calm and collected to insidious hatred to complete deluded fanaticism with such fluidity that you almost don't notice the transitions between these very distinct moods.
Look at the universe the Guardians have created. We have the greatest power in the cosmos, and what have they made us? Garbage collectors. We pick up the trash. A thief here, a killer there. Scum, dirt, filth. There's no end to it. But there could be. It's my dream that one day all this rot will be wiped away. A new order will prevail, one that will end the chaos, but it won't be built by the faint of heart. You got soft on me back there, Earth Boy, and that I will not tolerate.
The film was directed by Lauren Montgomery, who also directed the Wonder Woman animated movie, which I personally consider to be the first good straight-to-DVD feature produced by the modern DCU animated crew. Lauren's impressive skills as a director are very much evident here, as this movie makes the live-action Green Lantern movie look like a scruffy nerf herder.
Have you concluded admiring yourself?
Yeah.
So yes, 10 points in the badassitude meter! Not only do I recommend this, but if you've never seen anything Green Lantern, I highly suggest you check this film out, as it is a great introduction to Hal and his universe. If you like what you see, then by all means check out the comics and the other cartoons. Now let's move on to the next Green Lantern animated feature. Green Lantern Emerald Knights. It is fairly obvious that this was a film that was made as a promotional tool for the live-action Green Lantern movie, but instead of throwing together a mediocre sequel to First Flight, the DCU animated crew opted to do a series of animated shorts showcasing different facets of the Green Lantern mythos, all of which are bookended by a much larger story. You can tell that this one went through production a little bit quicker, as they pretty much reused a lot of the same character designs, crew, and voice actors. One of the big casting changes is that they got my personal choice to play Green Lantern in this movie, Nathan Fillion. Fuck yeah! This is the only time that one of my casting choices has come to pass, and I couldn't be prouder.
Come on. I'll tell you about the time I took on an army of manhunters and my only backup was this squirrel.
So the film sees the Corps make preparations to take on Krona, an all-powerful space vampire. And guys, when I say vampire, I don't mean he seduces you and drinks your blood in a very sexy manner. When Krona drains the life out of you, he fucks you up. As the Lanterns get ready to engage Krona in what may be their final battle, Hal regales a new recruit, Aricia, with tales about the Corps, which give way to the anthology format of the film. The first short is The First Lantern, which tells the tale of the first Green Lantern to ever make constructs with his ring, and therefore defining the way that all lanterns operate. This one works as a good warm-up story. Then, we have my personal favorite, Kilowog, which details the event which leads fan-favorite alien Green Lantern Kilowog from going from a wide-eyed cadet to a badass gruff drill sergeant. I have to admit, this one did make me go a little bit misty-eyed. Next, we have Mogo Doesn't Socialize, in which a barbarian warrior named Bolfanga, played by none other than Rowdy Roddy Piper, wants to challenge the most powerful Green Lantern of them all, Mogo, to do battle. But Mogo simply humiliates Bolfanga at every turn, without even making his presence known. I don't want to give away the ending to this one, but I will say that it's pretty damn awesome. And it's a great introduction to one of the most unique members of the Corps. Next, we have Lyra. This one sticks out like a sore thumb. I'm not saying that it's bad, it's just that the short spends a lot of time introducing Lyra and her world, all of which simply to serve the purpose of illustrating the sacrifices that one makes when one becomes a Green Lantern. Again, it isn't bad. It just breaks the very specific flow that the film had going up to this point. And last but not least, we have Abin Sur. Now this one is one that requires you to know Abin's role in GL mythology and his ultimate fate to truly appreciate it. But it is pretty damn good, as it is a treat to see Hal's predecessor in action. The Green Lantern's comics go on and on and on and on about how Abin was this badass warrior, but you never get to see it until this short. And let me tell you, all the embellishment wasn't in vain, as we see Abin do battle with Atrocitus, the future leader of the Red Lanterns. All the while, his ring is running out of charge. This short definitely demonstrates why so many Lanterns hold Abin at such high regard. Ultimately, this is a beautiful anthology film, and a love letter to all GL fans. 10 points on the Badassitude meter! Check it out! Okay, I hope that was enough of an appetizer. Now let's move on to the main course, starting with... the plot. Green Lanterns are being ambushed and murdered in Frontier space, which is outside of the watchful eyes of the Guardians. So Hal Jordan steals an experimental lightspeed ship called the Interceptor and hightails it to Frontier space, where mystery and danger await. Without the Guardians or the Corps to back him up, Hal must only rely on his makeshift crew and his fearless disposition to face all the new threats found in this unexplored region of space. Cast and characters. Green Lantern is a comic that has dozens upon dozens of characters, so when I first heard that DC was going to produce a GL show that took place almost entirely in space, I just assumed that it was going to be a lot like Justice League Unlimited, with a different cast every other episode. Fortunately, that was not the case, as the creators decided to focus on a far more intimate cast. So let's start exploring this cast with... Razor, played by Jason Spizak. Right away, the show plays tributes to the teachings of Roddenberry, because if Star Trek taught us anything, is there is no such thing as an entire race that is evil. And that is very much the case with Razor, who is a Red Lantern, one of the many natural antagonists of the Green Lantern Corps. A Red Lantern's ring is powered by rage, and Razor's boundless fury was ignited the day his planet was attacked and his wife was killed during the skirmish.
Razor of the Forgotten Zone, you have great rage in your heart. You belong to the Red Lantern Corps. Give in. The ring knows your pain.
Someone must pay!
You will have your revenge. This, your new master Atrocitus, promises.
While the Red Lanterns lived to destroy, there were just some orders that Razor could not follow, and eventually, Hal takes him on as one of the members of his crew. Razor is one of my favorite characters in the show. He is torn, conflicted, brooding, but well-intentioned. But I can't really delve too far into the complexities of Razor without talking about Aya, played by Ray Delisle. This is actually not Gray's first foray into the world of Green Lantern, as she had already played Boudica in Emerald Knights and Hal's Ring in the video game tie-in for the movie. Aya starts out as nothing more than the Interceptor's artificial intelligence. She's nothing more than the sexy voice of the computer.
New designation accepted. Aya.
But as she interacts more and more with Hal and crew, she starts to evolve. The first big spark in her evolution comes when Aya has to enter Razor's mind in order to save him from a torture device at a prison. That forces him to relive his worst memory over and over again. Seeing the love that Razor felt for his late wife firsthand ignites something in Aya that drives her to become more and more human, and she even chooses a humanoid form. But much to Razor's disgust, she chooses to look like his late wife. Now, I get that she would choose the form of a woman that she knows was loved, but what is the deal with the two-piece and the go-go boots? Did she extrapolate the rest of her human form from, Hal's personal files? In spite of Razor's resistance, Aya and him begin to have a somewhat subdued but evident romantic relationship. And while I might be the first to complain about unnecessary romantic subplots, there is nothing unnecessary or pointless about their relationship. This is by far one of the best romantic stories I have ever seen, and an essential part of the show, as it develops both characters efficiently. The evolving new life form starving for love and affection, and the heartbroken experienced one who doesn't want to get hurt again or tarnish the memory of his wife.
Aya, are you all right?
Yes, I think so.
I apologize for what I said earlier. You have more of a soul than I have ever had.
Kilowog, played by Kevin Michael Richardson.
Now, Kilowog is one of those great characters who has had the great fortune of always being played by great actors. But it seems like they always choose one of two ways of playing him, either as a big, lovable teddy bear.
Kilowog, can you tell me exactly what a Green Lantern does?
Well, that's easy. We catch bad guys.
Commendable.
Or a gruff badass.
The bigger you are, the quicker you burn. Gravity's a bitch.
Kevin plays both with expert precision. Kevin has voiced many characters for DC Animated. This was his first big lead character, and boy did he take to it well. Kilowog has always been a fan favorite. Kevin knows this, and he does the character justice at every turn.
What is cheese exactly?
It is curdled lacteal milk from a female bovine species on Earth.
From now on, how about you eat that in a closet or something?
Hal Jordan, played by Josh Keaton.
Yes, my favorite Spider-Man is playing my favorite JLA member. Now, I will admit that because I'm used to hearing Josh use his trademark youthful voice to play Spider-Man and Jack Derby, that I was slightly taken aback when I first heard that he was playing Hal on the show, as I assumed that his casting meant that they were planning on making Hal younger. But I was completely wrong, as Josh can lower his voice and play an older character if he so desires it.
Light is day, and blackest night. No evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light.
And this is actually not the first time Josh has voiced a DC character. He voiced both Flash and Aquaman on Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. Now, while Josh may not be my favorite Hal Jordan, that will always be Nathan Fillion, he comes pretty damn close, as he does a fantastic job of playing the reckless, risk-taking rogue who will flirt with anything with a skirt.
Please define term beautiful.
That must be the AI nav computer.
Hello, Aya. We're your new best friends, Hal and Kilowog. We want to learn how to fly you.
AI does not spell Aya, it spells I-E.
But Aya's a pretty name. Pretty name for a pretty girl.
Okay, he is flirting with the computer now. I actually gave him too much credit with that bit about the skirt. Oh, and they finally address Hal's insistence on wearing his mask in space.
That's Hal's hang-up. That thing on his face, it's a mask. He wears it in case some Earthling sneaks onto the Interceptor while we're in space, mind you, and goes, "Aha! The Green Lantern on my planet is Hal Jordan! I'm telling everyone!" This guy.
Ha ha. Talk to me when your planets invent paparazzi in the 24-hour news cycle.
Now sadly, this show only had one season, which was divided by two major storylines. Let's start with the one that took up the majority of the first half of the season.
Rise of the Red Lanterns.
The show begins with the pilot episode, Beware My Power Now. This title is actually part of a DCU animated tradition in which most of the Green Lantern-centric episodes in their shows would be titled using parts of the Green Lantern Oath. The first episode guest starring Green Lantern in Superman the Animated Series was called In Brightest Day. The first episode solely focusing on Green Lantern in Justice League was called In Blackest Night. Anyway, when our heroes arrive in Frontier Space, they discover that the culprits behind all the dead lanterns are the Red Lanterns, being led by Atrocitus, played by Jonathan Adams, who is most definitely my favorite villain in the series. He is one unforgiving, vicious son of a bitch, and Jonathan doesn't let you forget it for a moment.
You can help, Earthman. Your dying screams will help soothe the restless souls of our dead.
Now, every great villain has that one weaselly underling, and Atrocitus is no different. His snidely lieutenant is Silius Sucks, played by Tom Kenny, who plays the groveling, cowardly leech with seamless ease.
It's a mistake! There is no mistake! This is war! The truth of your vile duplicity has finally been revealed! I knew it all along. Me, I knew it. Peace, please! The Guardians are using the gag back on to finally and completely
So, why exactly do the Red Lanterns want to annihilate the Green Lanterns? Well, like all truly great villains, their motivations are clear. You see, before the Guardians instituted the Corps, their initial attempt at keeping order in the universe was the robotic police known as the Manhunters. Unfortunately, the Manhunters had trouble telling the difference between good and evil, and began destroying entire worlds at random, one of them being the home world of the Red Lanterns, who based their entire religion on worshipping rage and harnessing its power to get their revenge. This was a great storyline to start with, as it establishes the running theme for the series: a handful of heroes taking a stand against impossible odds, and no moment captures this theme better than when Hal and Razor have to find an alternate fast way to get to Oa in order to warn the Guardians of the oncoming Red Lantern invasion, and Kilowog stays behind to slow down the whole fleet on his own. This is my favorite scene in the entire show, and there has never been a more defining moment for this character.
In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light.
As big and as epic as the first half of the season was, things were about to get even more challenging for our four space heroes with
Manhunter Menace.
Right when it seems that the Guardians are starting to get the Red Lantern situation under control, old skeletons begin to escape from their closets as the Manhunters resurface, with the intention of destroying all life in the universe that is plagued by emotion. Interestingly enough, it is at this point in the series that Razor begins to take steps to control his rage. The irony of the most emotionally driven character suddenly being the most emotionally mature is not lost to me. Now, this half of the season had a lot more standalone episodes. Let's address the more notable ones, starting with the new guy. Hal returns to Earth only to find that while he was away fighting the Red Lanterns in Frontier Space, the Guardians replaced him with arguably the most disliked Green Lantern of them all, Guy Gardner, played by Diedrich Bader. The running gag, however, is that everyone in the show actually likes Guy.
Is that Guy Gardner? How are you, Guy?
Doing great, Abster.
While only Hal voices the famous general dislike of the character.
So, think I could get Carol's number? She seems really nice. I think she was checking me out on the phone, seeing as you guys are split up.
Later, Guy joins the war effort to battle the Manhunters. When Hal asks who's protecting Earth, Guy reveals that Jon Stewart has been chosen as the Lantern of Earth, which means that this show takes place before Justice League. You know, for those of you who care deeply about continuity. Oh, and they finally used a joke I've been waiting for them to use for over 10 years.
And if you're in the Honor Guard now, who's the new Lantern for our sector?
I don't know, some other Earth guy. What's his name?
Jon Stewart.
The fake news guy.
I cannot express how happy it makes me that someone finally made that connection and used that reference. Now, the standalone episode that I consider to be the absolute weakest episode in the show is Steam Lantern, where Hal accidentally gets zapped to an alternate steampunk reality. The episode is just generic and boring, especially when compared to the rest of the show. The steampunk characters were just terribly uninteresting. Their only redeeming quality is that they never appeared in the show again. Yes, there are worse episodes in other shows. Like I said, this is the weakest episode, but one weak episode out of one entire season is not a bad ratio. Now, let's go back to the good standalone episodes with Prisoner of Sinestro. Yes, Hal Jordan's greatest enemy appeared in one episode, and he was played by one of my top 5 favorite actors, Ron Perlman. Fucking awesome. Here, Sinestro is still a Green Lantern who is in the midst of transporting a criminal. Our heroes face a bit of a murder mystery scenario as someone is trying to sabotage them. Could it be Sinestro, his prisoner, or has one of the Interceptor's crew gone rogue? You have to check it out to find out. This was such a great episode, it left me wanting to see more of Ron Perlman's version of Sinestro. Unfortunately, one of the criterion instituted to the producers by either DC Comics or Warner Bros. Studios was to not use the Sinestro core in the first season. I think that had something to do with them wanting to save those characters and storyline for the now abandoned Green Lantern sequel. But nonetheless, the creators of the animated series still laid the groundwork to use the Sinestro core in a future season, as not only did they introduce Sinestro, but the yellow element as well, which renders Green Lanterns powerless. Which I think was a clever way of referencing Green Lantern's classic weakness without making him vulnerable to all things yellow, like Robin's cape. Yeah, that actually happened.
I was kicking butt long before I ever got this ring.
So let's go back to discussing the arc. With an army of manhunters looking to end almost all sentient life in the cosmos, things couldn't possibly get worse, right? Well, you would be wrong, because it turns out that the manhunters are being led by the Anti-Monitor. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Anti-Monitor is a godlike being who turns all matter into antimatter, and then consumes it. He literally eats entire universes. The first time the DC heroes faced him, both the Flash and Supergirl sacrificed themselves trying to stop him. While the battle with the Monitor keeps getting worse and worse, Razor, in a failed attempt to keep his feelings hidden, carelessly tells Aya that it is impossible for someone to feel love for a machine. The intense heartbreak caused by Razor weighs too heavy on Aya, and her emotions prove too distracting to function properly. Hal casually suggests she shut down her emotions, a suggestion she takes literally. And this, folks, is when the shit truly hits the fan. Cause without emotion, Aya begins to see things from the Monitor's point of view, how emotions are flawed and humans are weak, unworthy beings. So Aya does the unthinkable. She takes over the Monitor's body and continues his crusade in a more efficient manner. Now, a lot of people cried foul when Aya took over the Anti-Monitor's body in a seemingly easy manner. Well, you have to keep in mind, the Monitor and Aya are basically living energy. She simply pushed him out and took over his body, which was already programmed to destroy, so she was met with no resistance. Also, Aya is basically a living Green Lantern battery. That is a lot of power. She could do just about anything, especially considering she didn't care who she hurt in the process. Now things really get interesting, as it is easy to want to stop a threat at all costs when there's a villain behind it. But when the threat is being caused by a friend you do not wish to harm, things are far more complicated. This creates a rift between our three remaining heroes, who have very opposing views. Razor wants to save the woman that he loves no matter what the cost. Hal wants to save her and the universe, and Kilowog feels obligated to do his duty and save the universe no matter the sacrifice. This leads to my absolute favorite standalone episode in the series, Battle, in which our heroes crash land on a planet with their rings running out of charge. Once their power is gone, their translation matrix is deactivated, so they can no longer communicate.
Razor, can you run that again for Kilowog? What's that?
Zatiza Ma'abu.
Oh, great. Okay, no worries. Think, Jordan. Got it! Me, Hal.
Boozer.
This was brilliant, as they must learn to understand each other in other ways, if they are going to survive the ordeal ahead. I never ever would have been able to come up with a better metaphor for the true conflict of this story arc. Three heroes with three opposing views, unable to find an effective way of communicating.
Did you understand what he was?
Not a word.
Unfortunately, Aya's crusade does lead to an episode that I found a bit underwhelming and pointless. Love is a battlefield. Here, Aya tries to prove that love is weak by having one of the Star Sapphires, who are powered by love, fight a Red Lantern, who are powered by rage. Now, not only is this a pointless test that proves nothing, but it was a really lame excuse to bring back my favorite villain, Atrocitus, only to get rid of him immediately. Personally, if they were going to bring back Atrocitus, I think they could have come up with something a lot better than this. Again, it's not bad, just underwhelming. So, in the end, our heroes must find common ground if they are going to stop Aya, as she is planning to travel back in time to the moment where the universe was created and stop all life from ever existing. Will our trio find a way to save their friend and the universe? Or must one be sacrificed to save the other? A lot of people felt that the Anti-Monitor was too big of a threat for just Green Lantern, and that he probably would have served as a better villain for Justice League. But I still feel the creators of this show used him effectively, and they did a great job of keeping the audience guessing, cause quite frankly, I had no clue how Hal and his crew were going to survive this one.
Ready?
It takes little preparation to be a living bullet.
Character design and animation.
The character design is regular. I think the designers displayed superhuman skill when translating Bruce Timm's trademark flat, angular, blocky style to 3D characters. Unfortunately, while some characters translated well, others not so much. This was DC Animated's first completely computer animated show. My only real complaint about the animation is the opening sequence. Look at this! It's just random clips of the show inside the logo. The DC animated shows has some of the very best opening sequences, and now this? I always felt that the opening sequence of a TV show served two purposes. First, to introduce new potential viewers to the show, and hopefully get them interested enough to check it out. And secondly, to warm up the loyal audience and get them pumped and ready to see the show. This opening doesn't do either or. It's just so dull it almost puts me to sleep. Other than that, I felt that the computer animation was pretty damn solid, especially for a TV show. In fact, I was very surprised that the same studio animated Beware of the Batman, because the animation on that show was never as good as Green Lantern.
Final verdict.
This was the last show produced by Bruce Timm before he moved on to exclusively produce or work on the DC animated movies. And with him, he took my loyalty, as this is also the last show that they made that I actually liked, as the studio has pretty much hit a streak of bad luck, with shows that are being cancelled way too fast or shows that I flat out just don't care for. With all that said, I'm confident that they will eventually redeem themselves and release something awesome that I will love just as much as their shows from the 90s and the 2000s. For now, I'm just grateful that such an awesome show existed, based on one of my all-time favorite comic book characters, even if it was for just one season. 10 points on the badassitude meter! Charge your power ring, avoid the yellow element, and give it a watch. Beware my power. Join the Legion, suckers!
Where the heck do you get them?
We'll be in position.
By the way, good thing you've got your tiny mask on in case someone from this uninhabited alien planet recognizes you.